All right. So today I want to share a few insights from this book. It's titled To One That Feels. It's the teaching of Venerable Luangpor Teean. I believe this monk is the teacher of Ajahn Chah, I think. So this book starts statement from the Buddha. It is to one that feels that I teach the Dhamma, not to one that does not feel, right? It is to one that feels that I teach Dhamma, not to one that does not feel. This is what the Buddha said. So what does that mean? It's all about what we feel. So if we try to relate this to the whole Panchaskandha that we know, Rupa Vedana, Sanya, Sankara, Vijnana, this is the whole Vedana part, right? And in English it goes as form, Rupa goes as form, Vedana is feelings, Sanya is perception, and Sankara is the reaction, and Vijnana, of course, is the consciousness. All right. So I just want to read the first page, which was very captivating. Today we shall talk about how to end dukkha, suffering, according to Buddhism. The Buddha taught that each of us can come to the very important point of the cessation of dukkha. So I shall talk about a simple and direct method of practice according to my own experience. I can assure you that this method can really release you from dukkha. Now, since I'm reading from the book, I want to add my own thing to it as well. So what captivated me on this was two things, right? When a person says, I'm going to talk about a simple and direct method. Simple and direct is highly captivating. And he goes on to say, according to my own experience, right? Because this is what is really important. Somebody talking with their own experience of trying something out. And imagine the confidence to say that I can assure you that this method can really release you from dukkha, right? So I would like to have some faith to believe that this is enlightened person speaking. Who else can tell you that I can assure you that this method can really release you from dukkha, right? So it's amazing. So I got caught at the first small paragraph and I was hooked. So then the next paragraph goes as, when we talk about a method to end dukkha, words are one thing and the practice is quite another, right? So friends, I think we also have realized that by now, right? And then it goes to say, the method of practice is a method of developing sati, awareness, in all positions. Standing, you have awareness. Sitting, walking, lying. This practice has frequently been called Satipatthana, the grounds of awareness. But whatever you call it, the point is to be aware of yourself. If you are aware of yourself, then moha will disappear. Moha or delusion. Give me a second. If you are aware of yourself, then moha will disappear. So I want to pause here because this is a very, very important piece, right? Now, if you remember everything we have been speaking about up to now, we have been speaking about the whole Panchaskandha, Panchopadanaskandha, rather, process, this automatic process where when you see something, which is rupa, when I see, I mean seeing in the eye. So what you see with your eyes, what you hear with your ear, taste with your tongue, smell with your nose, the touch sensations you feel on your body, and the thoughts that come. So whatever that comes through these six sense doors translates to feeling. Initially, it's neutral. Then the brain, the supercomputer, processes it and checks it against our perceptions, which is memories from the past, where we have decided that these kind of inputs are good, I like it, I want more. These kind of inputs are bad, I don't like it, I want to get rid of it. Some of these inputs are right, some are wrong, right? So all those, the judgments, the biases, the likes and the dislikes, they all come from that perception, which is our memory. And then based on that perception, the feelings change from neutral to the perception was positive to positive feelings, pleasant, very pleasant feelings. So if the perception was negative, to very negative feelings, anger, irritation, resentment, frustration, restlessness, and so on. And the consciousness, you need the consciousness everywhere, because if not, that's the one that connects all of this. So, where does moha come? Now, in this perception, you can boil it all down to all of these perceptions. You can boil it all down to things I like, things I dislike. So these words like and dislike in Pali simply is lobha and dvesha. And this whole sense of me, myself, I, thinking that there is a person who likes things and there's a person who doesn't like things, which is me, myself, I, which is what we have been erroneously thinking from the time we were born. It's a misunderstanding, right? Because we don't understand the subtle finesse of the mind. It takes some time before that the brain develops the ability to understand the subtle finesse of the mind, this duality of the mind. Initially, as you're born, you only feel the coarse things. This finesse comes much later. In fact, the brain keeps developing until you're 25, right? So around the age of 15, about 70% of the prefrontal cortex, which is required for this purpose, is developed about 70%. And only when you are 25 to 27, it's fully developed. So this definitely limits you in making this transition. However, I think there are people who made this transition, enlightened beings at the age of 7 also. We have stories like that. So something would have clicked faster for them. But for normal human beings like us, a good if you assume that you're living up to 80, more than 1/4 of your life gets lived blindly reacting to the sense inputs and being totally deceived that there is a permanent person here who is transcending time. So the person who was born and the person who was 10, the person who was 20, and the person who is now talking to you 50, is the same person, right? Whereas what the Buddha said is no, that person changed a million times in as you are speaking. It's just that it happens so fast physically and the mental energies. It happens so fast. You can't see it. You just see it over long periods of time. It's certainly not the same elements or the energy. It's not. So this whole sense of a permanent being is not there, but there's a flux. There's a flux of things happening. But we misunderstand this to think that the person who was born is the same person who is here right now, right? So then we get attached this whole feeling of this permanent feeling of me, myself, I, and we would like to think that it doesn't all end here, right? After 80 years of living on this planet, if that's all going to end, it seems like such a waste from that feeling of me, myself, I, everything I have built. all the networks I have built, all the wealth I have amassed, the things I have done to this world, right? And we are quite oblivious to the fact that in this world, this planet, we are just another speck of dust that if a tree gets struck by lightning and dies, so to speak, nobody's going to think twice about it. And certainly the same to anybody in the human species, right? So even the people very close to you will miss you for selfish reasons, and that's it. Not for who you are, but for what benefits they have, and it's all based on the perception. For the memories, they'll miss you for the memories. So this whole moha. So how does this relate back to what this monk is Venerable Thero is saying here? This whole moha is the part about me, myself, I, right? When you are based on a strong platform that there is a person here and that is me, myself, I, and there are things I like and there are things I don't like, that is what makes this whole samsaric chakra keep moving, because every input that comes through, you are judging based on this, what do I like and what do I not like feeling, right? So that, and then based on that, you start reacting. However, if that whole moha part is not there anymore, and if you really understand that this is a flux of material and energy here, and there's really no one person here, then there is no need to make a judgment about what is right and what is wrong in my point of view. Right? That whole my point of view part disappears. Because if you notice, there are 8 billion of us on this planet, and that my point of view is the problem. That is what is causing all the problems, right? That my point of view. And you will have a fair understanding of what's going on, for sure. It's just that you will not try to fight everything so passionately, because that whole my point of view part uh, disappears. So that is why the monk is saying, if you are aware of yourself, delusion or moha will disappear. So how does that happen? So this whole Panchupadanaskanda process requires us to just blindly go in a flow. So we, let's say we see something and it is something unpleasant. And then the perception reminds you that it's unpleasant and that you don't like it. And then the whole unpleasant feelings come in, and the mind, the words, the body, it starts forming. There are mental formations coming in place to think in a certain way, or why is this person doing this? I always tell them to, let's say, keep the table neat and tidy, keep the room neat and tidy. I just cleaned up this room yesterday, and see what a mess they have done again, right? And then we say, da 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 da, it goes on. So the mind starts thinking, reacting to what you saw, then the words start forming, you will scold somebody, or the behavior comes where you take a broom or something and start cleaning up the room again, right? So, and then all the time you're filled with negative energy, negative thoughts, all of those dvesha feeling over dvesha, so it's the dvesha part of it. But dvesha doesn't mean that you are going to kill somebody. It simply means that there's a disliking, and that disliking can be small, that disliking can be very intense, where you really, a dislike can turn into hatred. And the more we think on those lines, let's say somebody said something hurtful and you really deeply got hurt. And what does it mean that you got hurt? It means that me, myself, I, your ego got attacked. And then you start thinking very deeply and hurtfully. And it can, if you humor yourself with it, if you allow it to build, it can go up to deep hatred. And all the time you are burning. Actually, you can equate this to burning in hell. You are under a lot of stress and unhappiness. Same goes to fear and anxiety about what will happen next, and so on. So when you develop awareness of yourself, what happens is, when you see something, and this part automatically happens. You see something, it gets checked with the perception, and then the pleasant or unpleasant feelings arise, right? And that is, up to that point, it happens automatically. And that's why the Buddha says, I'm teaching this to one who feels. So when you feel it, and if you're aware, that's it, right? When the feeling comes, and if you're aware of what you're feeling, that process stops there. For that moment, it stops. Right now, the Buddha was talking about how to permanently stop it. And in order to permanently stop it, we have to start stopping it temporarily, one feeling at a time, sort of, right? To get the practice of it. And as we start getting the practice, it stops completely one day, right? So he's saying, if you are aware of yourself, moha will disappear because you start seeing that, you start seeing how the feeling develops and how you either like or dislike, or you have this feeling of this is right and this is wrong, and how the whole lobha or dvesha starts arising in you. You start to really see, right? And as you can see, how the mind works is the reaction. In order for the reaction to happen, you have to go with the flow. The moment you are aware, that process stops. So this is why it's called a duality. It's referred to as a duality of the mind, right? The free flow method is how we are blindly reacting. And this is where the Buddha said you are like a puppet, right? You're blindly reacting. But the moment you are aware, moment to moment you are aware, that process stops. So what happens automatically is you cannot stop being bombarded by all this data that comes through your sense windows. But in fact, when you just stop and be silent and close your eyes and just pay attention, you realize that based on where your mind's attention is going, you realize where the sense inputs are coming in, that there's like a million sense inputs coming at the same time, right? So that will not stop. You are a healthy human being. You can see, you can hear, you can feel through your nose, tongue, body, and your brain is working. So you will be thinking, right? Thoughts will come, memories will come. So that there's no need to stop that. And then there's automatic what do you call, a review that happens in the brain with your perceptions. And based on that, feelings will arise. And that process will just happen. So the awareness, right? Being aware where that is important is noticing all of this. Now, in order to keep your awareness, the monk is saying you should develop awareness of yourself, of being aware of all your body movements. Right? So this is where you get a practice, because the Buddha really valued continued awareness, sati, right? The sati or the sihiya, the awareness, when you keep it in a one-pointedness and don't get distracted with anything, that is what will actually get you out of this whole flow and permanently into this stillness, this peaceful stillness where you can just observe the entire world going mad around you and just observe, right? Rather than you also just getting blindly swept away in that madness. Okay, so the practice starts with you should develop awareness of yourself, being aware of all your body movements, because body movements are the coarse movements. Mind movements are the refined movements, right? So when you start developing awareness of your body movements, your awareness starts, you start getting the practice of being still versus what you practiced all your life and probably all of samsara of going with the flow, right? So you should develop awareness of yourself by being aware of all of your body movements, such as turning your hands, raising and lowering your forearms. Now we are going to practice this, so don't worry. I'm just going to read it first and then we're going to practice. Turning your hands, raising and lowering your forearms, walking back and forth, turning and nodding your head, blinking your eyes, opening your mouth, inhaling, exhaling, swallowing saliva, and so on. You must be aware of all these moments, and this awareness is called sati. When you have awareness of yourself, the unawareness, which is called moha or delusion, will will disappear. So this is what awakening calls, right? So the definition of mindfulness is awakening fully to what is going on right now, right? And not awakening is this whole unawareness or moha delusion, which makes you go with the flow, right? Blindly reacting to everything that comes in. Whereas if you are awakened to this moment of what is happening in your body and in your mind, that moha and delusion will disappear. To be aware of the moments of the body is to develop sati. You should try to develop this awareness in every moment. When you are fully aware of yourself, there arises a certain kind of prajna or knowing in the mind that knows reality as it is. To see yourself as you are, to see Dhamma, the way things are, the truth of nature, the truth of existence. To see Dhamma isn't to see deities or hell or heaven. To see Dhamma is to see oneself turning the hands, raising and lowering the forearms, walking back and forth, turning, nodding the head, blinking the eyes, opening the mouth, inhaling, exhaling, swallowing saliva, and so on. Right. When you see with the eyes, be aware. When you see with the mind, be aware. Right. So Dhamma is yourself. Everything is Dhamma, whether male or female, Thai, Chinese, or Westerner, each is Dhamma. The practice is with us. The teaching of the Buddha can really lead us to the extinguishing of dukkha. Individuals are Dhamma. Dhamma is the individual. When we know Dhamma, we will understand that everything is not as we think it is. Everything is sammuti, right? There's a thing that we refer to as sammuti satya and paramattha satya. So sammuti is convention. The prajna arises so that the real teaching of the Buddha can be realized. Whether the Buddha existed or not, Dhamma is here. When you really see this, you will be beyond your superstitions. Once you know that Dhamma is yourself, it is you that lead your own life, nothing else. This is the beginning of the end of dukkha. So I'll stop there. Right? It's just 1.5 pages that I read. So I didn't read the whole book because that's not how I read a book. I read a book only until the point that I can practice it. And up to this point, I want to practice before reading everything else, because otherwise, what's the point, right? You are just immersing theory, and that's what we have done all our life. We have studied and passed exams, and are we any happier as a result? Right? I don't think so. In fact, Ajahn Brahm says the more exams you pass, the more unhappy you get. So 1.5 pages. So let's practice this now. How do we practice this? So sit down first and in your normal sitting posture, right? And keep your hands on your thighs, right? Keep your hands on your thighs. And now close your eyes. Okay. I will be referring to your left hand and your right hand. So I hope you are not like me. In order to figure out what is my left and right, I have to actually look at my hands because I easily get confused with left and right. Okay, so I know okay, this is my right and yeah, this is my left. All right, I got it. So close your eyes now, right? Now your hands are sitting comfortably on your thighs. Now, first, keep your attention now on your hands, right? First, I will ask you to focus on your right hand that is sitting on your thigh. Now, turn your hand upwards so that your palms are facing upwards. Earlier, your palms were facing downwards. Now, the palm of your right hand is upwards. Okay, so let's do that again. Turn your right hand upwards and feel what you feel, right? So for me, for example, now I'm sitting under the fan, so I can feel the gentle breeze, the softness and the cooling of the breeze on my palms. And I can feel a bit of tingling on my palms. Okay, so this is keeping your attention to the feelings, right? Now, gently raise your hand from your elbow, right? Just your hand was resting on your thigh, just raise it onto your elbow. Okay. And now gently raise your arm, right up. Raise your arm. And you can feel how your arm felt as you are raising it, right? So your arm is connected to your shoulders near a socket. You can feel all of that. Now gently bring down your arm to the earlier position where it was you had folded your arm at your elbow. And now again, gently keep your hand back on your thigh. All right. So don't worry about whether you followed the steps in a pristine manner. All we are trying to do here is you are doing a very simple activity that you did as a child, or rather a baby or infant even, where you were experimenting with your hand, right? So you keep your palm down, turn it upwards, then fold your hand at the elbow, and then lift your hand right up, bring your hand down again, right? And keep your hand back on your thigh. So during this process, you just observe what you feel, right? Because here what you're doing is you're practicing to keep your mind's attention simply on what you feel as these body movements are taking place. Now, if you go to any meditation retreat, they will tell you to be mindful in all of your bodily activities. So, whether you are drinking a cup of tea, whether you are having your meal, whether you are going to the bathroom, the washroom, that entire process to keep your attention on what you feel on your body, right? So this is a smaller version of that where we are just practicing it just to get our mind used to being in this sati state, that is being in this awareness state. So just to summarize, what are we trying to do here? Our mind is usually on a blind flow, that is just flowing blindly, right? And we do our day-to-day activities. Let's say you are cutting or chopping something in the kitchen. Your mind is not on the cutting or the chopping. Your mind is somewhere else, right? Some rattling off, some talking, or some rattling off on your own, right? We call this the non-stop talking, chatter, internal chatter in the mind. And you are either regretting something in the past, or you are worrying about something in the future, or you are replaying something negative. Usually we replay negative things a lot that happened, and replaying how you will react next time and so on, right? So instead of all that, what this practice is doing is simply helping you to focus on your body movements, right? Because also think about it, all the sense inputs comes through sense doors that are in your body, right? So what you see is the eye, which is a physical thing in the body, the ear, the nose, the tongue, and all the touch sensations. All of that is in your body, and even the thinking comes from the brain or some part of the mind that is in the body, right? So that is why the Buddha paid so much emphasis into this awareness of body movements, because that is the best place to catch this whole process, the Panchaskandha whole process, right? So today, what I suggest when we meditate now, it is 9:40. Let's meditate for 9:40 up to 10:20, right? Let's meditate for 40 minutes, and then we have 10 minutes to share so that we can actually stop at 10:30. So in these 40 minutes, you can try walking meditation where you are keeping your attention on your feet. or you can try keeping your eyes closed, or turning your palm up and down, and holding your arm near the elbow, raising it up, and doing that with the right hand and then with the left hand, just to practice keeping your awareness into these body movements, right? So let's do that practice. And at some point, if you feel tired or lazy, go back to your whatever the normal meditation that you like doing. But I suggest that every day, at least for 5 minutes, if you can do this, just to get your attention onto your body and to get the practice of observing your body. I think that will be a good way to start practicing this. All right, so I will stop the recording and then let us meditate for 40 minutes and then let's have a discussion.